Welcome to Frederick Thatcher Place in Battle. It's not quite 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning, sort of middle of July, and the sun ain't got his hat on yet. But I thought this morning I might do another. I've done 2 videos of an autobiographical theme, Back to the Farm and Crowhurst 30 years on. Plus there was an element in my trip down the Bexhill West branch line. So today I've come back to Battle. I'm on North Trade Road and the farm is just up the road there. But I'm going to take a look around Battle. You'll be able to see it as it is now. And what I'm going to try and do is just take myself back to my childhood. I see what I remember of what was here and tell you about what I remember and how it fitted in where things are today, which sounds a bit but I hope it'll fit together all right. But this particular building here is quite interesting because if we didn't catch the bus we would always walk down here. This is the North Trade Road. Now this building I remember as Battle Hospital. It actually started life back in 1840 and this was the Battle Union Workhouse. And I think just after the First World War it became a military hospital. It eventually ended up being a care home for older people, which it was when the NHS took it over. And these hedges weren't here at the time. We used to walk down here, and in the summer the old folk would be out in the gardens and they'd be sitting there in their wheelchairs and that, and always give us a cheery wave. Oh, can you hear that? That sounds rather low, doesn't it? Oh well. Anyway, there you'll see some of the buildings over there. I can't really go any closer because once this closed in, I think it must have been 1996 or thereabouts, maybe a bit after, as a care home. It's been converted quite tastefully into these residential units now. Rather nice. I can hear a car coming, so pause for the moment. This is all new here, and again I won't go in, it's a private estate. Sunny Rise. Now this is where they had a little nursery, and I remember that because there was a little slope going down into it and a little cottage at the bottom where lived Mr. and Mrs. Puxton, as I remember. And we always used to go in there. I'm not sure why. I don't know whether Granny used to take eggs for sale there or whether we actually bought something from there. But yeah, that was the nurseries. And I'm just walking along here. Lots of new buildings going on at the moment, but we're building a brand new care home over on the right, completely rebuilding Clavering School. But I want to come along to this next entrance while I'm here. Because down there was the dairy. So this is all on this side at least, with changes. Well, like you say, everything changes but still stays the same, don't they? The buildings down near the dairy are the same. The Thatcher Place is the same shell, but different things inside it. But I'm about 60 years older than it. And most of the time I used to walk down here. But, yes, I suppose up until my grandparents retired, I'd have been about 22 by then, so for the first 22 years of my life I was up and down here pretty often. Right, let's move on. From the middle to late 18th century, I suppose just as the Industrial Revolution was getting going, turnpike trusts were established all over the country to build proper solid roads to get the goods round and about. Well, obviously they had to collect the toll money from somewhere, and everywhere you still find these old toll houses, and this one here is no exception. There were two main toll roads that went out in this direction. One went right the way across through Elsham and over to the Broad at Lewes, and the other one went up over beach down to Heathfield. They both joined and went down here, down the North Trade Road, and joined up with the Flimwell to Hastings one. This is quite a remarkable little survivor, and all this new development over there, the bungalow development, was started off in the 1950s, and I remember seeing it all being built. And there's the clue you get now to the turnpike: toll gates. There it is. And that grew up during the 1950s. And I cannot believe how busy this road is beginning to get, and it's only 5:05. And I couldn't come past here without mentioning Deep Danger Pond. The house called Pond Willow now, but there it is. It doesn't seem quite as big as I recall it, but we were always told that it's so deep that a man drove a horse and cart in there once, and the whole thing just disappeared and sunk to the bottom. It was so deep they couldn't recover it. Well, that was the myth we were told when I was a kid. Unfortunately, just to spoil it, I have heard that since then there's been a proper check made and no remains of anything were found. Well, the sun's still not properly up yet, so this might be a little bit dark in places. One of the things I always liked about coming into the recreation ground here, we had although it's changed quite a bit since I was younger, but the children's playground is still in the same place down the end. And well, that was a football field just in front of us, and a very well kept one at that. I don't think they play football at all on it now, but I love the view too. Look at that, a lovely view over towards Eastbourne, and on a clear day, it's not quite so clear this morning because there's a bit of mist about, but on a clear day you could see right across the beach yard. And that little estate down there in the corner, Aston Fields, that was one of these sort of post-World War council housing estates. Quite a nice location actually. But almost every Saturday in the summer there'd be something going on here. There'd be a fete to support, say, the Women's Institute or the Battle Bonfire Boys or this society and that society. So there was always something going on here. This is where my uncle decided on he'd have a go at bowling for the pig. Except there weren't any pigs as the prize. It was a little Scotty dog was the prize. He paid his sixpence and he won it. And he had a little black Scotty dog for many, many years after that. And those of us of a certain age will not be surprised to hear that he called it Tanner. And now it's time to move on. Well, we're now at Battle Market, as it is now. This is the new Market Square. I say new, it's been there for goodness knows how many years. I remember coming here when it was a proper livestock market, and my memories of it are a bit hazy, but I seem to remember that the auctioneer stand was somewhere near where this kind of bandstand thing is now. This is it's quite pleasant as far as these developments go. You've got your supermarket here and quite a nice clock tower at the top there, and you see the sun has got his hat on and he's just beginning to come out to play. And along that outer edge there, I seem to recall a line of low wooden buildings. And I used to be sat on a bench outside one of them, and out would come probably Grandad, having come down. I think Granny would have walked us down North Trade Road, and Grandad would have come down from the farm with the livestock. I recall being sat very often on this bench outside this building, and suddenly in my hand would be thrust a bottle of lemonade with a straw and a packet of Smith's crisps with the old salt bag. Actually, this is quite yes, it is. It's quite pleasant. It's easier for me to leave the car parked in the car park at the moment. Now, the Almonry Gardens and Museum, and I've got to have the Almonry is one of the largest, one of the oldest buildings in Battle. It's now the town hall and council offices, and parts of it date back to the 14th and 15th centuries, as you can see from there. We'll take a look at the other side of it on the way down the high street, but it's quite nice and quite good that they've used it for modern day purposes. But there's a nice walled garden, isn't it? Now, there is the old ambulance station, but I can't remember whether it was NHS or St John's in the 50s, but I do remember it as the ambulance station. It then became funeral directors, and over here is the new fire station, and for a while the ambulance station as well, but I think the ambulances have all been moved away. I'm not going to walk up there, but that building there was the law courts and police station. Well, the police station is still there, but the law courts have gone. Now we have this statue in the middle of the roundabout, and just over to the left of it is the old civil defence building, because there always used to be one of those green goddesses parked outside. Interesting that this tree is still there, because that used to be the road junction. I'm looking straight along. The main road to London used to go along to what is now the right of that tree, as I remember, and it was like a little triangular junction. So North Parade Road went off to the left, and if you wanted to go to London, you turned right at the triangle and then carried on up the London Road. And they've kept that tree in there, which is rather nice touch, I think. So let's get this thing back in focus, and let's take a walk down the high street and see what we can find. I think I might go on the other side of the road. With modern, you'll see some of these. There's just so many nice older properties left here in Battle, but the Rue de Bayeux, I remember them being built, and you'll notice that on the side here it says Wellington Court. Well, on this spot stood the old Duke of Wellington pub, from what I recall. There is the Almonry, which is now the Town Hall and Museum. And there's a little place called Treat, which I seem to remember as being the public lavatories. Amazing what you can do with them, isn't it? There you go. Another lovely old building here. Martin's Oak. Got a bit of age to it. Trouble is, I have to keep flitting from side to side in order to get everything in. I think what I'm going to do, we'll just have a look at this here. 1875, undertakers and stonemasons. And there's all sorts of interesting, quirky little buildings that have all been just put together over the years. Battle cider. There. Cobblers to you too, mate. Yes, I'm going to go into Main Street, and then I'm going to go down one side and come up the other. There's some white weatherboarding. It's World's End Clothing. This was a bit of battle that we never really got to see very much, but when you come round the corner you find there's some pretty interesting old stuff around here. The King's Head, for instance. This is supposedly the oldest pub in Battle, but to be honest I'm not sure of its age, but it's going to be, parts of it I think would probably be 15th century or thereabouts. I'm not going to walk too far along, but actual fact I think this is probably about as far as I'm going to go this morning, along past these older buildings. The architecture changes as you get round the corner, but there are some very nice old buildings up here. So maybe I won't cross over just yet. I was thinking of doing this as a little section of a video, but I think it's going to end up as a complete video on its own. I'm not going to walk any further up, but look at that. How would you like to live there, eh? Rather lovely, isn't it? Now, I'm going to cross the road. Look at this lovely wisteria on the walls of this cottage here. And I'm actually standing right opposite the Zion Chapel, which is quite an imposing building. And there's something about the light shining on it at this time in the morning, dating back to 1820. Excuse me. Now we'll walk back along this dropped pavement here so you can see the buildings opposite. Oh, this is interesting. You see here examples of the bubble glass. Now you can sometimes get a clue to the age of a building when you see these bits of bubbles in the panes of the windows. These were quite common until about 1920. So I know there are modern copies about, but generally speaking, you know a building is going to be before 1920 when you see that type of glass. There's a building there with the shutters. How long have I got? Oh, alright, bit of time yet. Now there's another example, you see. bubble glass. But with that one, you've only got to look at it and you know. It's a damn sight earlier than 1920, that building. Now, I said about the modern fire station, built during the 1950s. Well, there's the original one. Let me see if I can get a better angle on it so I can get more in. There it is. That was the old Battle fire station. You never knew there was so much here, did you? Actually, neither did I.